Good afternoon and welcome. I'm very excited to host what I'm sure is going to be a very interesting and very informative webinar. So hopefully that makes sense, and we can all see the screen and see myself and Nelson, who I'd like to introduce. So Nelson has a lot of experience with over 12 years in clinical operations. He started his career with TMF activities at Merck Serono, and then Nelson gains expertise in TMF management at Quintiles, while also developing his team management skills. He then focused in the electronic TMF process at the Drugs for Neglected Disease initiative and has worked with VivaVault since 2018. Nelson currently leads the Clinical Trials Associates team and the TMF process at Pharma, who are a Geneva-based biopharmaceutical company. So it's great to have you on the webinar, Nelson, and thank you for being here. I'd also like to introduce myself. So I've been in the life science industry for, I think, 24 years now, in clinical operations roles, supporting large pharma, medium pharma, CRO, and biotechs. And most recently, I was at a small biotech where we implemented Viva eTMF, and I bring that experience combined with leading clinical operations there to now support sponsors and enable their success to bring products to market faster and more efficiently and maintain compliance. So it's great to be here, and I'm really excited by the webinar today. It's a topic we get asked about a lot, and hopefully we can see our experience in the webinar today. And Nelson's going to share best practices to enable an outsourced digital model for document control and improve TMF inspection readiness. I was just going to start as an introduction and background to what Nelson will discuss next. And I think I'd like to set the scene and describe what we commonly see in the industry as the journey companies take with their trial master file. As you can see from this slide, the eTMF journey often mirrors that of the sponsor journey and growth. So as the company grows and develops its clinical pipeline, we also see them wanting to take more ownership of the TMF. And of course, it's essential to still work with outsourced partners. And it's this balance we often advise on at Viva, and Nelson's going to discuss his experience of today. When companies are emerging with early phase studies, they're going to fully outsource to a CRO, which makes a lot of sense as there's limited resources at the sponsor, and often the CRO may offer other services such as a phase 1 unit, labs, but they host and are specialists in the TMF management. So they're going to be well positioned to run the study and TMF operations for the sponsor. And we often see companies as they grow, not only with their clinical development, but also with the sponsor team resource itself. They retain the strong partnerships with the CROs, which may be for study level TMF management, but sponsors will also start to bring the eTMF in-house, which is typically for sponsor level documents and archiving at the end of the trial. And I think one of the main drivers for this is so sponsors can show greater oversight and have control over key documentation, and of course, be inspection ready. Once a company has a later stage clinical development program, then the focus is to grow and scale up and scale TMF operations, usually by owning the eTMF and getting CROs to work in the sponsor system. And I think it's important to note, you can see this journey and the different ways of using the TMF. It's not necessarily linear, as shown here. There are advantages and disadvantages in all of these eTMF use cases. They're not mutually exclusive, and you could use more than one use case to suit the study and to suit your resources. So I think with that background of just what we see in the industry and how we see the TMF adoption growing alongside the TMF sponsor growth, I just wanted to focus for a moment, particularly on the challenges that small pharma can face. And of course, at an early stage, results are the focus. The result is key to progressing the development plan and getting that go, no-go decision. But the challenge is that there is a small team. And often, as I found out, you're going to be wearing many hats. There's simply no one else to do the task. Even if there's a few other teams and it's a large thing, there's not. So you're very diverse in the smaller company. And that's what leads us to see why we see 95% of sponsors in the small and medium segment outsource their clinical trials or part of their clinical operations. It's a huge amount of outsourcing. And the key questions I think I was asking myself when in this position at a small startup emerging biotech were, do you really need to outsource everything to the same vendor? What parts should we be outsourcing? Should we fully outsource all studies by default? Is it really all or nothing? And who should be managing or owning the eTMF? In fact, what is the best outsourcing strategy and where do I even start with this? So we need to make sense of these challenges and remain compliant with the regulations and, of course, be inspection ready. And I think Viva eTMF is one solution that can adapt to many of these challenges. And Viva has a focus to help advise and assist small to medium sponsors, whether they're customers or not. And that's how we're going to develop the industry, by using that sort of collective knowledge to get some standard. So I wanted to thank Nelson again. But Nelson's going to give his valuable experience of this journey and his learnings and guidance for working with a TMF in an outsourced model. Hopefully those few slides just give a bit of background and context, and then I'll hand over to you, Nelson. So thank you.
So happy to be part of this webinar and present how we improve TMF inspection readiness at OM Pharma by using Vault TMF and 2 TMF operating models. In terms of agenda, I will provide a quick overview of OM Pharma. I will detail why we have decided to implement Vault TMF at OM Pharma to drive inspection readiness. I will show you the 2 TMF operating models that we use at OM Pharma. One model is the CRO working in the sponsor Vault eTMF, and the other model is the sponsor and the CRO having their own Vault eTMF. And finally, I will show you how we improve inspection readiness at OM Pharma, and I will share the common benefits of these models. So about us, OM Pharma is a global Geneva-based biopharmaceutical company, leader in the prevention of recurrent respiratory and urinary tract infections, and active in the treatment of vascular diseases. We are 500 employees worldwide, and we currently have 5 clinical trials ongoing. With those clinical trials ongoing, we needed to adapt our resources accordingly. So our human resources, but also our system resources. At the beginning, at OM Pharma, the clinical operations team was composed of 3 team members. On the systems used were SharePoints and document repositories, which was high risk in terms of inspection. Today, we are in better shape. We have 10 team members in our clinical operations team, and we have decided to implement Vault TMF at OM Pharma to help us to keep our TMF inspection ready at any time and to reduce the risk in terms of inspection. So why have we decided to implement Vault eTMF at OM Pharma in January 2022? Because we truly think that Vault eTMF is the best application to use to keep our TMF inspection ready at any time. Vault eTMF brings together all the keywords that we can see in this slide, and all these keywords bring us TMF inspection readiness. I started to work with Vault eTMF in 2018 at a previous company, and I can assure that Vault eTMF is key to keep our TMF inspection ready. So as an overview, so at Pharma, so as I mentioned, so we have 5 clinical studies ongoing from phase 1 to phase 4. We are working with 2 CROs, each with their own model. We have 5 clinical trial managers, 2 clinical trial associates, 1 eTMF specialists, and 2 resources from clinical supply. So how to select the TMF operating model that best fits your organization? So we have the sponsor-owned eTMF model with the CRO working in the sponsor vault eTMF. And we have the divided eTMF model with the sponsor and the CRO having their own vault eTMF. And at OM Pharma, our key decision factors were the study characteristics, the CRO capabilities, our own internal resources, and our available budgets. If I detail this a little bit by sharing 2 concrete examples. So for the phase 4 study with 1 country on 50 sites, we have decided to select the divided eTMF model because we have here a big number of sites, so meaning a lot of documents to manage. But the key decision factor here was related to the CRO capabilities, because the CRO that we have selected here is using Viva Vault Clinical with a Vault eTMF and also a CTMS included in their Viva Vault Clinical, which is a great added value. For the phase 2 study with 4 countries and 30 sites, we have selected the sponsor-owned eTMF model. So we have here less sites, but again, our key decision factor was related to the CRO capabilities, because the CRO that we have selected has no eTMF, and as sponsor, we wanted to have a direct access to our TMF to perform proper TMF of our sites. Before to go deeper into the different responsibilities according to the model selected, let me talk a bit about some eTMF features that we use or would like to use at OM Pharma. So the first one is the collaborative authoring feature that is key for OM Pharma on key for the drafting and the review of our documents in Microsoft Office. So the collaborative authoring feature allows several users, internal and external users, to draft, review, and work in a Microsoft Office document at the same time. And all of this is done in Vault eTMF directly. And we have proper document version history, a proper audit trail, a proper workflow history reports. So all of this brings TMF inspection readiness. The expected document lists on the milestones. So this is a standard feature that will help us to track our eTMF completeness by defining which documents are required to be uploaded in the eTMF, and if those documents are coming in a timely manner. The TMF boat feature, so this feature automatically classify documents in Vault eTMF. So this is great as it reduces the amount of work to be done by the document owner. So it is a feature that we are not using yet at OM Pharma, but we would like to use it on specifically for the automatic upload and classification of our email correspondence. Because with the TMF bot feature, we have the possibility to send our relevant communication, email correspondence, to a specific Vault eTMF email address that will automatically upload and classify our email classification. And this is really great for our clinical operations team, great for our clinical trial managers. So it will help them to manage their relevant communications, relevant correspondence, because that correspondence need to be uploaded in Vault eTMF. So the TMF bot feature brings also TMF inspection readiness. And finally, the TMF transfer feature. So this feature, so we are not using it at the moment, but we will use it when we will have a study that will end. And we will transfer our eTMF from the 0 volt eTMF into the sponsor volt eTMF. So both systems will connect each other, and we will perform that transfer to get our full TMF in one location only. Let me now detail the main responsibilities according to the model selected. So in the sponsor-owned eTMF model, the sponsor is responsible to upload the sponsor documents and to perform a quality check of them. The CRO will do the same for the documents under their responsibility. As you can see in this slide, we have more responsibilities listed in the sponsor side as we are in the sponsor-owned eTMF model. In that sense, the sponsor will be responsible to perform eTMF quality check reviews. Dedicated eTMF support will need to be provided by the sponsor to the CRO by creating and sharing a eTMF user guide, for example. The sponsor will need to manage the accesses as well as trainings. And the sponsor will need to make sure that we have restrict access to sponsor confidential documents. So like this, the CRO cannot access sponsor meeting minutes, for example. And in terms of shared responsibilities, so the sponsor and the CRO will develop and will agree on a TMF plan. A TMF index will be set up at the beginning of the study to define the filing responsibilities between the sponsor and the CRO. Expected document lists should be reviewed by the sponsor and the CRO to define which documents are required to be uploaded in Vault eTMF. The review of documents in collaborative authoring. So again, this is a key one, I would say an important one, because the sponsor and the CRO can work together in a document to draft that document in Vault eTMF to review it using that collaborative authoring feature. And finally, so the sponsor and the CRO will have access to different reports and dashboards to check the TMF completion. Let me now switch to the other model and identify the differences. So we are here in the divided eTMF model. And in this model, we have more responsibilities listed in the CRO side because the CRO will be responsible to manage and upload most of the documents. But the sponsor will remain responsible to upload the sponsor documents in the sponsor Vault eTMF and perform a quality check of them. Here, eTMF quality check reviews, dedicated eTMF support, and eTMF access management should be done in both sides. And finally, in the shared responsibilities, we have one more. So it's the eTMF transfer at the end of the study. So as explained, so we will, at the end of the study, perform that transfer to transfer the TMF from the CRO Vault eTMF to the sponsor Vault eTMF. There are critical elements to manage for inspection readiness. Close collaboration to create a single source of truth for document management. Ensure sponsor visibility in the CRO Vault and eTMF oversight. So let me go deeper into each critical element. The first one, so to create, to collaborate to create a single source of truth for document management. In terms of accesses, in the sponsor-owned eTMF, we have one single system with limited CRO access. So typically, the CRO has no access to the sponsor meeting minutes. In the divided eTMF model, we have two systems, but with clear expectations on prerequisites. The eTMF structure remains the same in both models. So we will set up the TMF index at the beginning of the study, and we will define the filing responsibilities between the sponsor and the CRO. For eTMF workflows in the sponsor-owned eTMF, the CRO can initiate and can participate to workflows. Typically, the CRO can start a send for review workflow to review the meeting minutes that have been taken by themselves. In the divided eTMF, the sponsor cannot initiate workflows, but can participate to workflows, typically to review a document, to draft and review a document using the collaborative authoring feature. In the sponsor-owned eTMF, we have only one system, so we have one TMF plan set up. In the divided eTMF, we have two systems, so we will have a TMF plan set up for each system. Expected document lists are reviewed in both sides. And finally, reports. So in the sponsor-owned eTMF, the sponsor can customize reports. And in the divided eTMF, so in the 0-volt eTMF, the reports are predefined to meet sponsor needs. So the takeaway here, the takeaway from the first critical element is to ensure that the CRO system configuration aligns with sponsor needs. Because sometimes the configuration in Vault could differ from one Vault to another. So it could differ from the sponsor Vault to the CRO Vault. Typically at Pharma, we use the collaborative authoring feature. But the CRO that we have selected, that we are working with, was not using that collaborative authoring feature. So we discussed with that CRO and we agreed to use that collaborative authoring feature also in the CRO Vault. And the CRO agreed on that because they saw the advantage to use that feature. So this is, I will say, also the added value of the divided eTMF model is that you have two systems with potentially different configurations. You could have potentially different ways of working between you and the CRO. So with that divided eTMF model, you can learn from each other. So the CRO can learn from the sponsor and the sponsor can learn from the CRO. The second critical element, so ensure sponsor visibility. So in terms of visibility for the upload of documents in the sponsor-owned eTMF, the sponsor and the CRO will upload documents. In the divided eTMF, the sponsor cannot upload documents. This is as a responsibility under, under the CRO. The milestones are managed and tracked by the system owner. So it will be the sponsor in the sponsor Vault eTMF and the CRO in the CRO Vault eTMF. Again, the collaborative authoring feature, key and important, so to review and draft our documents. This can be used in the sponsor Vault eTMF, but also in the CRO Vault eTMF, and internal and external users can connect and we can all work together using that feature. In terms of classification, so the classification remains the same in both models. The only thing that could differ is in the system if typically if we use the TMF bot feature that automatically classify documents in Vault eTMF. And typically the TMF bot at Pharma, we want to use it to automatically upload and classify email communications. And for closeout, so in the divided eTMF, so as I mentioned, we'll perform that TMF transfer at study closeout. And in the sponsor-owned eTMF, there is no transfer to eTMF transfer to happen. The closeout will be done within the system. On the takeaway, of this second critical element is a close collaboration. So with the CRO, and also via the collaborative authoring feature. And again, I repeat myself, but it's really a key feature to be used, because in terms of visibility, I think you cannot do better than the collaborative authoring feature, because instead of reviewing on drafting your document outside Vault TMF in a SharePoint or in a Drive, or doing that review by email, you can do it directly in Vault eTMF. And you do it with internal users, with external users, and you will have that proper document version history, audit trail, workflow history report. And also later on, if you are potentially audited or inspected, this is something that the auditors on the inspectors will look, because being TMF inspection ready is not only having your final document in PDF uploaded in your eTMF. You need to track your reviews. So you need to track your document in track changes, and you need to track all the review cycle. So again, the collaborative authoring feature is key here for inspection readiness. In terms of feasibility, in terms of visibility, also, we have the possibility to run different reports on dashboards. So this is a sample quality issue report that we generated from the sponsor own eTMF. And we wanted to report the quality issues from documents that have been uploaded by the CRO and that have been QC rejected by the sponsor. And the purpose of it was to, of course, share that report with the CRO. So the report, this dashboard has been shared with the CRO, for the CRO to focus on what was wrong, to take remediate action. And typically here we can see that the most common issue was the misclassification of documents. And last but not least, so the third critical element, so eTMF oversight. So in terms of oversight measures remain the same in both models. So we need to put in place clear and strong KPIs that should be agreed with the CRO. So 3 main KPIs: completeness, timeliness, quality. Quality checks, so eTMF quality checks should be done as well and documented in the eTMF. eTMF review meetings should be planned with the CRO to check the TMF completion. And if we do all of this, so if we put in place those KPIs, if we perform quality checks, if we plan review meetings, we should be able to identify any issue, any gap, or any potential bad TMF completion. And if we identify that, then we can put in place a clear action plan with due dates for the sponsor on the CRO. And the takeaway here for the third critical element, it's more a reminder, is that the sponsor is ultimately responsible for the TMF, regardless of model, and even if CRO manages documents. By talking about bad TMF completion, so this is what happened to us. So we have put our KPIs in place. We did our reviews, and we planned our meetings, and we have been able to identify that our TMF was in bad shape. The completion was not good enough, and was putting our study at risk. So we have put a clear and strong action plan in place. So we have decided first to retrain key users to make sure that they fully understand how the documents should be uploaded and classified in Vault eTMF. And then we have decided to train new resources from the CRO, so new CRO resources for them to have access and to upload documents. Because the issue that we faced with the CRO, so we had a contact, so one key person at the CRO that was responsible to upload most of the documents in Vault eTMF, but that person was overloaded and the documents were not coming in a timely manner. So we decided to train more CRO resources because the TMF is not so it should be important for everyone, and not only for the eTMF specialist or the clinical trial associates. So we decided to train users from different departments, so from regulatory, from safety, from different functions, data manager, statistician, for them to take on their responsibility for the documents that they need to generate and to upload in Vault eTMF and to improve that TMF completion. So we did it. It was a lot of work, a lot of efforts, but we did it together in close collaboration with the CRO. We worked as a team and we were able to improve the TMF completion quickly. And let me share so the common benefits of these models. So on using Vault eTMF, so an easy and smooth access for the sponsor on the CRO to Vault eTMF. Working with Vault eTMF with the CRO, I will say that it improves the collaboration between the sponsor and the CRO as we work as one team. And as I said, we can also learn from each other. Again, the collaborative authoring feature, so I will not repeat myself, so it's key for the review and the drafting of documents. On the single source of truth for document management, so this one is also important because Vault eTMF is not only a repository system, it is a lifecycle system where we can exchange documents, we can draft review documents, we can approve those documents, we can electronically sign documents. So we need to use that system accordingly. So we need to, I will say, change minds and start to work with the system and work inside the system. So it's not only a system to upload documents and upload our final documents. We need to start directly working on drafting our documents in Vault eTMF. And only like this, we will be able to create that single source of truth for document management. And finally, so a tip, a key takeaway, that the most important thing is to choose the model that best fits your characteristics, your own characteristics, capabilities, and resources. And to conclude my my presentation, so at Pharma, we are coming from far away. We did the necessary to be in good shape today, but we need already to think about the future and see how we could improve our processes and our work also in Vault eTMF. And we will do so by using that tip that I just shared by checking our own characteristics, capabilities, and resources. So thank you very much for your attention.